Hey, welcome back to No Hype Beer Reviews. Unless it's your first time, then welcome. Please consider subscribing. If you do, hit the notification bell, get all the updates. This every video. It's Tuesday, and on Tuesdays I try to test my palate, drink something outside my norm, drink a spirit or coffee, something that's not beer, or, and this is the best way to test my palate, do a mystery beer. And today's is courtesy of Ross. Thanks so much, Ross. I really appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. Happy New Year. Does say some stuff at the bottom, but it doesn't give anything away to me anyway. Filled back in September. Okay. No idea what the style is. A brewery, nothing like that. It didn't quite open, but I got it. Interesting. Okay. See, with Ross, you never know. Very unpredictable guy, you know? I don't know why I said that, Ross. But no, like any mystery beer, you never know. You never know where someone's going with it. All right, so about 3 fingers ahead. It's got this red, little bit of orange, but mostly brown kind of a color, the actual beer. The head is a dark khaki for me color, very creamy looking. I can see some carbonation, decent carbonation going. What style? I mean, you could tell me like a Belgian double or triple, or a quadruple, I mean. Barley wine? A brown ale, but a little lighter than I think that style typically looks. What else could this be? I don't know. I'm not locked in on the look of the beer. Let's see about the aroma. There's some sweetness, it smells like you can kind of smell the fermentation. So I don't know if this is like a Doppelbock lager, because you can I usually don't smell fermentation in beers unless it's a lager. The extra length of time, sometimes the lighter other aromas and notes, I think make way for that. So I kind of get that. So that's kind of thrown me for a loop a little bit. You get that brown bread thing. So like, based on how it looks and what I'm smelling, it is somewhere in that barley wine, quad, Doppelbock kind of realm. Could completely change when I taste it, but that's kind of, but like I don't think it's Belgian. Like I don't get some of the, at least in the aroma, I don't get that Belgian-y yeast. I don't know. It smells good. These mystery beers, you try so hard to figure out what the heck the beer is that you kind of forget sometimes to mention if it's pleasant as an experience. I like this aroma. Yeah, that brown bread thing is super strong. It very much smells like bread in liquid form. Dark brown bread specifically. See about the taste. Cheers. Thanks again, Ross. I think this is going to be a fun one. Yeah, I think it's a Bock or a Doppelbock. Maybe just because I had one recently, it's in my head. I don't know. But of course, I've had barley wines and quads recently. Like the aroma, I don't get like Belgian stuff out of it. Maybe because I've had some bigger barrel-aged barley wines lately. It's not quite scratching that barley wine itch, but because of the fermentation note, like it very much. It's like when people say it tastes like a beer, and it's like, well, what does that mean? Oh, like the macro, Pilsner lager kind of a thing. So again, like having that, I think it's a lager. I think it's a Doppelbock for that reason, because I really get that fermentation beeriness out of it, plus some of that sweet brown bread. Not overly sweet of a beer though. Relatively light body, some dried fruits, the perception of like baking spices, almost to the point where I could see some cinnamon. But that, man, so that sip had me kind of going light barley wine for a sec, but then that fermentation thing kicks in. I think I'm all in on a Bock Doppelbock. I'm going to say this is around 6%. Yeah, I'll say six. I'm thinking 6.5, but I'm gonna say 6%. It doesn't have an alcohol oomph to it, and it is relatively thin. Um, I don't think it has any adjuncts. If it does, they're very subtle. I mentioned cinnamon. I don't think this has cinnamon in it. Um, like a brown sugar or something, maybe I could see that. But yeah, Doppelbock 6%, 6.5, 6.5, with no adjuncts. Also, it's good. I like the aroma and I like the taste. All right, let's get into this Fort Knox. I think once I get these guys. I was joking about the Fort Knox, Ross, but I think it'd be easier to get into that. Oh, I was pretty far off. And also, I don't know if there would be any way for me to get this beer. So it's Revolution. They're calling it Caramel Crisp Caramel Popcorn Ale. So me going back and I kept going to the lager thing. I can taste that fermentation. 7% ABV, so I'm glad I landed at the 6.5. That makes me pretty happy. Man, I taste that fermentation though. All right, so let's see. 7% caramel popcorn ale. Creme brulee like sweetness, light salty finish. Excuse me. I mean, I'm not going to pretend I was anywhere near that. You got me, Ross. I like mystery beers like this because, like, it's super fun. It's challenging. So, I mean, I'm tasting what I'm tasting. I get some fermentation. I get some of that, like, that beer thing. So, it's not a lager. I completely whiffed on the Doppelbock thing. But knowing what this is, I mean, creme brulee like sweetness. I mentioned the brown sugar, that if it did have an adjunct, it'd be something like that because it does have, that thing, that sweetness, but not overly sweet. So I do feel good about that. I don't get any saltiness at all. I'm going to look for it in a sec, don't get me wrong. The caramel, I get some dried fruits, which again, it was making me think Doppelbock, but a lot of those beers in that realm I was saying, kick out, barley wine, quads, kick out that. So, okay, fair enough. I mean, in a million billion years, I wasn't going to guess caramel popcorn ale. Yeah, I don't get the salt, but knowing what they're calling this beer and what they were intending with this beer, I get it. Looks like it's called Garrett, or it's like maybe it's a collab. Garrett is a Chicago tradition popcorn shop. Let me show this too. But anyway, so like, yeah, I was never gonna call it that, obviously, but in the spirit of testing my palate, I mean, I knew it was dried fruit. I didn't quite go caramel too much. Fair enough. I knew it didn't have the Belgian thing, so I'm happy I didn't go like a double. Because the thinness, it wouldn't be a quad. I keep saying quad, but it'd have to be more like a double Belgian style ale. Knew it wasn't a barley wine. The Doppelbock just kind of tasting some of that fermentation just really made me think Doppelbock. I do think, at least of those three things that I was going back and forth on, that is the closest to what this tastes like. So if you've never had this beer before, but you've had like a Bock, a Doppelbock, that the taste is pretty close. Yeah, and again, it's a good beer. I forgot to say this last time I did a mystery beer, but feel free to give me a grade. I was really close on the ABV, whiffed on the Doppelbock, but admittedly would never have guessed this in a billion years. I'll say a B minus, because I had some tasting notes that did make sense for this Knew some tasting notes that definitely were not here. Oh, I'm gonna say a B minus, but people consider me to be a kind of an easy grader. So what do you think? Comment section below. Let's get a conversation going. Once you're done doing that, make sure you check. Oh, thanks again, Ross. Once you're done doing that, make sure you check me out on Instagram and Untapped. It's No Hype Beer Reviews at both of those places. So always please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, imbibe. Cheers, everyone.